There's a myth going round town that when you get older you just sit down and start rocking, just rocking. In a way that's true, if you know what I mean. Just take a look at the senior scene. Well, it's rockin'. Yeah, it's rockin'. We're pulling our weight, learning the code, clicking our heels, sharing the load, and every so often we're hitting the road. Yeah, we're rockin'.
Welcome to In Praise of Age. This is a program for seniors on senior topics, and the program is also produced by seniors in our community. And we have really an exciting topic that I think that it affects everyone at some time in their life. If you're human at all, and this is the topic on love and relationships in later life. And I'm going to start off the program before I introduce our guest, who's an expert in this whole area, on a poem that's actually in his new book. We'll be talking about it in a little bit. And I'll read this to you as the audience. He dies, she dies, and after great loneliness, those who are left behind find each other or redefine each other, from neighbor, old friend, to companion, intimate, and most amazingly, lover. And so that's really what we're talking about today. And our guest today is Dr. Saul Gordon, who's an expert. He's emeritus professor from Syracuse University. He spent the majority of his life in this whole area of family education research. He's a sex educator and has been on the Oprah Winfrey Show. Thank you for being with us today.
My pleasure.
And so it's wonderful to have you here, and that you live here in Chapel Hill. And
I even like it.
That's wonderful. Well, first of all, what made you come to Chapel Hill from Syracuse?
Well, I was married for about 40 years, and my wife died in '91. She died of cancer. And I had an old friend. She married, and her husband died. And we connected about 6 years ago. We became friends, and intimate friends, and caring friends, and we're living together now. We're partners.
Great, and it's one thing to the topic today, of course, is love and relationships and in later life. So basically, you're not just an academic subject for you, but also personal. It touches you personally.
Yeah. There are 35 million singles over 40, and this is a large population. And one of the things you need to be careful about if you happen to have lost a spouse, not to look for anybody that's exactly like your spouse. It doesn't matter how much you love that person.
That's right.
Everybody is different. Everybody has different personalities, and if you're going to look for somebody the same, you'll always be disappointed. You'll never find somebody that's right for you.
Very much. Well, what made you decide to write a book on another chance for love, finding a partner later in life?
Well, I did the same. It was based on my own experience, and I know that there are so many people who feel that it's too late. You know, I hear people, I'm 60, I'm 70, it's too late. It's not too late. Let me read to you something that just appeared in the Los Angeles Times. Seniors find relationships more golden than they ever dreamed. The article described how more older Americans than ever, approximately over 112,000, age 65 and older, are coupling up. That's 60% more than 10 years ago, you know? And they're not marrying. Most of them are cohabiting because there are reasons of Social Security and inheritance and taxes and various other reasons. But, you know, I'm for, it's okay to marry, it's okay to couple, it's okay to even live in different homes and still have an intimate relationship. I don't decide for people what they should do. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's an excellent point, but isn't this part of the 21st century, that similar things that we see younger folks doing like a generation or so back, they're living together in college and so forth, and we may have been concerned about that. And they should be married, they should be just living together. How that's sort of changed the whole cultural milieu is now sort of catching up with older adults. The idea, well, they've sort of been around that among young folks. Now they're kind of saying, okay, I'm now older, maybe that's best for me as well, before you make a committed or more of a legal entanglement.
Absolutely, and I favor it. People have a right to make their own decisions, and if they want to marry, that's okay too. If they want an alternate lifestyle, even gay lesbian relationship, that's okay too. Or remain single, that's
Sure.
okay too.
Sure. Well, I think that you mentioned about different types of intimate relationships. I guess first of all is the definition of a, in your book, which is great. I've read it, and it's a great book, and I encourage other people to read your book. But the idea you bring up is the concern about being friends and special friends kind of thing.
Let me talk
Explain
about
that a little bit.
First of all, most marriages don't work in this society. 65% of all marriages eventually break up. It used to be that men were the ones who initiated divorces. 10 years ago, it was 65% of all divorces were initiated by men. Now 70% of all divorces are initiated by women. Mm-hmm. Women are more secure, they have jobs of their own, they're not dependent on men, you see. And if you marry only for love, that doesn't work. People talk love at first sight. I advise people to take another look, Love is blind. I advise people to open up their eyes. They have ridiculous ideas. You can only really fall in love once. You can fall in love 18 times, I'm not for making a commitment on the basis of love or sex. You could have great sex and still relate to an abuser. I'm for friendship. Friendship is what really counts. And friendship means one doesn't control the other. We're talking about egalitarian relationships. If you have a really good friend, it doesn't matter if it's intimate or same sex, it doesn't matter. Once that friend tries to control the other, the friendship is finished. And that's true of good relationships. And I'm not talking about casual friendships. I'm talking about intimate friendships, caring friendships, people who enjoy being together, have a sense of moral values together. They are sharing intimacies, and they have respect for each other. They can have their own career, they can have their own friends,
Sure.
But they enjoy being together. That's what they like best of all. You see.
Do you think that the idea of falling in love is something that, as we go through what I call second chance or chapter 2, somebody described, of one's life kind of thing, is that we start to look at that love and falling in love is not an emotion. I think I've heard once that I've shared with you earlier is that love is, as I define it, is not how I feel about the other person, but how I feel about myself when I'm with them. And that's what really counts. How do you feel to make it in life and later? You have to feel good about yourself in the relationship.
Absolutely. And love is very volatile also. And, love changes. And that's why I'm for love, and I'm for sex, and I'm for romance, but without friendship, nothing works. In fact, there's no possibility of a marriage lasting without friendship, without caring for each other. And also, I'm for a sense of humor.
Yeah.
I feel that every relationship has to have a sense of humor. And I'm a big fan of the philosopher of William James, who says, wisdom is learning what to overlook. If everything's important, then no marriage works. You have to decide what's important and what's not.
Yeah, I think in your book it's implied, but the issue of longevity, living a longer life and so forth, tends to be associated, without a doubt, research has shown that, as you're aware of, is associated with maintaining relationship, called marriage relationship or significant relationship, helps to maintain longevity.
Not only that, but I have this philosophy: if you have plans, you don't get old. I've decided not to get old.
You're a good example of that.
I'm over 80 years old, and I'm still alert, alive, still working on writing my books and lecturing. And creativity is also very important to longevity. Not only relationships, but plans and creativity. Marc Chagall, the famous artist, he was working when he was 91, 92, 93, he did some of his most creative work. And that's a secret of longevity. Be creative. Have a good relationship. Have good friends, you know, and have an intimate, caring friend. And the most important thing I have to tell you, you're not too old. There are people 70, 80, even 90 finding relationships that they adore and enjoy and live with. That's
great. You're right. I think talking about people probably ask themselves many times that we're sort of what is our worst enemy, in the sense some people take on stereotypes. And to take it on from family members, I assume.
Sure.
Well, Mom, you're too old to get married again. You know, Dad was good to you. You shouldn't, or vice versa. Is that, you know, you shouldn't be thinking about that. You know, I'm sure a lot of that goes on, and thoughts go through older.
And it's not fair. It's not desirable for people to be alone. And opportunities for creativity, opportunities for love, opportunities for good relationships. That's the way to go, and you're never too old to find somebody you can care about and love and be your best friend. I'm not talking about casual friendships. I'm talking about intimate friendship, caring, where you enjoy being together virtually a lot of the time, and you can share intimacies and share moral issues.
One of the things that relates to a publication I read that it's called the 5 Love Languages for Intimate Relationships. I really told you about that. And I actually looked at that because, like yourself and like many of our viewers, is that my wife passed away, and she was quite young. And so, again, I had, as the poem I read earlier, I had to redefine myself.
Of course. Yeah.
And we're constantly redefining myself. The kind of person, while my wife was wonderful, my new wife, we have been married for 3 years, is different, and I don't expect her to be like my first wife.
You're wise.
and the issue is you love them for their uniqueness.
Absolutely.
And also I had to redefine myself and said, now have I changed from my first marriage to quote my future second marriage, and what are the things I value more now? Because we do change over time.
Of course we do.
And did you find that?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's a new relationship. My first wife was a social worker, and she co-authored some of the books with me. My second wife's a PhD in physiology and chemistry. It's not but it's a whole different field, and she's influencing me in a lot of different ways,
that are good. It still makes you feel good about yourself.
Absolutely.
I think that's the bottom line, is whoever you're with, you want them to make you feel good about yourself and who you are.
Absolutely.
In life. At that stage in life.
To promote one's own self-esteem is very important.
That stage in life, I found that. But anyway, one of the things about this 5 love languages, briefly mentioned, is that look, we all speak different languages, we back and forth, almost like French and German. And some of the key things I'll just mention, because I want to spend time on that, was that we tend to value different things, consciously or unconsciously. We value time differently.
Sure.
We value touch differently.
Sure.
We value words of affirmation, communication differently. And we value gifts we give each other. And I asked myself, what's important to me, some of these love languages, right? The most important thing to me, I realized in later life, was touch and affirmation of who I am.
Absolutely.
And the person I married emphasizes that, where you have to look to the other person for reaffirming you as a person.
Absolutely, great.
But getting back to some of this friendship, which we both agree 100%, it has to be from friendship to more intimate relationships. What are some characteristics of a good friend? I know you talked about humor. Was one of those, and about a value system.
The most important aspect of a good friendship is that the relationship is egalitarian. One person that is not in control. At one time, marriages with men were in control. That's no longer possible anymore. Women have their own jobs, their own careers. It used to be that there were 100 people in medical school. 3 or 4 were women. Now 55 are women and 45 are men,
That's right.
Things are changing, and we have to appreciate that. And people are delaying their marriage, we know that. But the really most important feature is that you have respect for the other person. You have respect for their own interests, for their own careers. You know, you can't. One of the most destructive aspects of a relationship is jealousy. I don't talk about playful jealousy. I'm talking about you can't talk to anybody else. We have to have our own friends. We have to do everything together. That's hostility. That's aggression. That has nothing to do with real friendship. And by the way, what's real? You know, if I was to think of the 10 most important things in a relationship, intimacy and caring and enjoying being together is number 1. Number 2 is a sense of humor, you know. Number 9 is sex, and number 10 is sharing household tasks together. And you know, my college students say, how could sex be number 9? Well, of the 3,443 important things in a relationship, it's still one of the top 10. I've never heard of a good relationship where sex was number 1. Never.
Yeah, and I know the terms that go to the movies, it tends to be seen as
that's what they
number
think.
1.
Yeah.
One thing. But one of the things you haven't mentioned, but I know in research, because that's my field too, family gerontology, but is the issue of money.
Money is important. Don't play any games with it. Don't assume money is not important. How you spend your money, how you save your money. You know, one of the great tragedies in our society are people are using their credit cards and their huge debts, and there's no way to pay them, and people have irresponsible attitudes about money. You have to be responsible about money.
Well, I think it occurs, that whole issue, and studies shown that money becomes an issue really in younger life, first marriages, but I assume in later life that's why some people choose non-traditional marriages because of financial entanglements.
Absolutely. Yeah, and some have their own bank accounts, you know, their own credit cards. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with that.
But I know the Social Security issues. But what in your research, you think that do family members, like children, have a lot of impact on relationships, establishing new relationships in later life?
Look, first of all, if you're in a relationship and the other person has some children that are still teenagers or young adults, don't convey that you're going to be a substitute parent. Just say, I'm going to be your friend. I mean, you have your father, you have your mother. I'm not going to substitute for that. I'll be your friend. You know, and also some children are worried about inheritance, and some children don't want to leave their home. You know, which they're so you know, there's a lot of history in it, a lot of tradition. So sometimes couples decide not to live together, but they're still intimate and caring and go on vacations together and do a lot of things. But they still have their own homes. That's okay too.
But I think a lot of children, even from my standpoint, I think my children kind of agonized over seeing me with someone else.
Of course.
I mean, it just the perception, the growing up with their mother, which they loved and I loved.
Absolutely.
And
but
it's the idea of a perception, you know, that they can't work through that.
But the best way to handle that is not to give the impression that you're going to be a substitute parent.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I was fortunate enough, in some respects, fortunate enough the person I married had no children, and therefore I didn't have to worry about that side. Other than my new wife, we have no children by my second wife, but she treats my first wife's children, my children, as if they were her own, and which is great. I mean,
that's okay if it works. It's okay if it works.
It works.
It doesn't always work.
That's right.
That's what we have to understand.
The most important thing, as a friend, like you say, is the most important thing is a friend that they can identify with.
Yeah.
Probably, I know we really don't have enough time to cover every single topic, but there's a couple of issues I would love to have you talk about before the program ends today, and that is in terms of dating, sort of the quote dating in later years.
Well, let me talk about that.
The do's and don'ts, because I think our audience would love to hear that. Maybe in this situation.
I'm generally against internet dating. I can tell you that most people lie when they're doing internet dating. There are some instances where it works, maybe 1 in 1,000. I say the best way to meet people is to do good deeds, is to do community service. You meet the best people. In the Talmud, the Jewish Talmud is called the mitzvah, to do mitzvah. I'm big on mitzvah therapy. Sometimes there are people who are stuck, depressed, lonely, unhappy, one of the best ways to get out of unhappiness, loneliness, depression, living a life of regrets and so on, or grieving, is to do good deeds, and to be with people who you can help and enjoy, and your whole life is transformed that way. You feel needed, wanted, and respected. So I feel the best way to meet the best people is to do community service.
Basically, finding other people that are giving, that are outward directed rather than inward.
Absolutely.
Because I assume a lot of folks in later years become self-absorbed and say, I don't want to get married again because I've done it once, that kind of thing. But I think one of the issues that in reading your book is that in terms of older adults, they see themselves as maybe unworthy, or they start to bring up problem of dating. Is that they bring up the issue the first time on their first date? I assume this is not a good thing to do on the first date. Is bring up your former spouse, how much you love them, and all that.
Forget it. And don't tell them all your troubles.
That's the kind of person they want to be with, huh?
No, that's deadly. You know, don't tell them your trouble. Don't make big reference to your former spouse and so on. And the most important thing is, you know, there was a woman who was over 40, and she had just been in psychoanalysis. She had been sexually abused, and she was alone, and so, and she'd been in analysis for 5 years. I said, you know about your inner child, your outer child, you know about your unconscious, your dreams. Why do you want therapy? She said, well, you have to. I heard you were good, and I'm not going to leave you. I'm going to commit suicide if you want. You reject me. I said, oh, sure, I'll see you. But I have a new therapy. It's called Mitzvah Therapy. You know what I did? I asked her to go to an institution for abused children and work there almost every day if she can for a month. She came back. She said, I was never so happy in my life. The kids love me. They adore me, and I adore them. I feel needed, wanted, and respected for the first time in my life. You know,
that's wonderful.
So it's a powerful experience.
Dr. Gordon, you really you'd make a great I wouldn't say poster child, but for one of our programs in the Department of Aging, that's RSVP, Retired Senior and Volunteer Program, which the whole purpose there is getting people into the community to reconnect, to volunteer, to find things that really get them going.
More power to you. That's fabulous.
We have over 600 volunteers.
Super.
Doing that in the community.
And also, you have to volunteer in an area that you enjoy. If you don't want to be with people who are miserable and unhappy or dying, it's okay. You could teach a young person how to read. You could teach a new immigrant a little English. You know, there's so many things you could do that you would enjoy and enhance your life.
That's right. Okay, what are some more, say, don'ts for dating would you recommend?
Well, I'm against these instant datings. You know, would you meet somebody for 10 minutes and switch lunch with them?
From table to table kind of thing?
That's ridiculous. You know, these reality shows, you know, they marry there. And 9 out of 10 that have married already divorced. You know, people think there's a difference when you look for a friend. When you look for a date, you look for attraction, age, religion, money, height. You know.
Okay.
But if you're looking for a friend, none of these things count. You know.
Okay. Well, let's get to the other side of things. Now, what are the do's? Now, where can you find? I'm sure people ask now, where can I go to find someone that I could be compatible with as a
one of the best, of course, doing community service, learning something new.
Sure.
You know, going back to school or learning something new is a good way. Your local church or synagogue. These are really good places.
I hope you mentioned Senior Center too.
Of course.
Since
that's obvious.
On that, great.
But it should be a context where people are doing something together, not just being there. It should be in a class or community service or something that people can learn about each other. And you had an idea about people having dinner together. That's a great idea.
Yeah. Well, I actually thought about that some type of dinners for six
Yeah.
kind of thing, where it would be mixed kind of thing, rather than just all females or all males.
Right.
Otherwise, it'd be Saturday Night Football or whatever, Monday Night Football. Kind of like it would be.
I think it's a great idea.
The name of the book by Dr. Saul Gordon is Another Chance for Love. Finding, I can read it upside down, finding a
partner later in life, and it's also co-authored by my friend Elaine Schimberg.
Okay, and she's
from Florida,
okay. Yeah. This is available, I assume, in local bookstores?
Oh, yeah, it's available in all bookstores. Yeah.
But I found it interesting reading. You got a lot of practical ideas to give folks in terms of understanding.
And it's not academic, it's direct and English, plain English.
It definitely was. That's what I enjoyed about it.
Thank you.
Very 1, 2, 3, try this.
Yeah.
One of the things you mentioned about internet dating was that at the Senior Center we offer various classes called SeniorNet. And one of the things I proposed that we develop a class in internet dating, but to look at it from what are the elements, how to go about using, because people are going to use the internet.
Yeah, of course.
For the Senior Center to be a place where they could
learn how to use the internet
properly, the proper way of internet dating, rather than, as you say, falsifying your record in your past life.
Or pretend that you're single when you're married.
That's right.
That's the worst.
Very much so. I wish we had a live audience today, that just we could go out in the audience and ask them questions.
Thank you. I really appreciate this opportunity. And remember, if you have plans, you don't get old.
That's right. Hopes and dreams keep us alive, very much so. And it definitely is shown in your own personal life. You're a living example of what you're preaching here today.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for that.
My pleasure.
There's a myth going round town that when you get older you just sit down and start rocking, just rocking. In a way that's true, if you know what I mean. Just take a look at the senior scene. Well, it's rocking, yeah, it's rocking. We're pulling our weight, learning the code, clicking our heels, sharing the load, and every so often we're hitting the road. Yeah, we're rocking. Well, I must be going, got a game at 3, then kids to be tutored, they're counting on me. It's a brand new century, and we're rocking. We paid our dues all those years, and it's so nice to be switching gears. It's a grand new century, and it's the senior life, the senior life, the senior life for me.